So this Art of Zwift is all based on, it's nothing scientific. I'm not tied to Zwift in any way whatsoever. So this is really just based on my own observations and a little bit of Googling that I've done and various forums I've gone on to find out about Zwift, really. So I'm going to impart some of that knowledge onto you. Now, I'm assuming you've all got various levels of experience with Zwift. So the question often asked is, what is Zwift? And according to their latest marketing material, it's fun is fast, which is great when you can get Geraint Thomas in on the adverts. But the Wikipedia definition is there on the screen. I'm not going to read it out because you're just capable of reading it as I am. But I think it sums it up quite nicely. So I guess the most important thing is, what do you actually need to be able to use Zwift? So there's the stock answer that you'll get from the various Zwift help forums, and there's the bits that I recommend you get as well, based on my experience of playing Zwift so far. So yeah, you need a turbo trainer. Helps have a bike on it as well. And then with the bike, you need an ANT receiver, and they're typically little USB devices. I think I picked mine up for about 20 quid off of eBay. And you need a speed sensor, unless of course you've got one of the all-in-one devices, in which case then you'll have a power meter built into it. And there is a little bit of a bonus contention, as you may have seen from some of the feedback related to this event, over people that use separates as opposed to people that have all-in-one trainers. Now, there is no right or wrong answer on this one. People that use separates are not cheating. We'll talk about cheating in a little while, actually, if that is if you want to sort of cheat yourself, basically. But what I found from my own experience is I run separates, and up until a point, it's very comparable to running an all-in-one unit. It's when you start going up hills, big hills, that it starts making a difference. I've noticed the break point seems to be around about 3 to 4% gradient on a hill. The power meter riders tend to get it harder than people running separates. Or it might just be me being overweight. What you also need, and it's a very helpful training tool, is a cadence sensor. And this is what you fit on your pedal. If you've got the all-in-one, it'll be there ready for you. And that just detects the number of times that your pedals are going round. And that then feeds into the Zwift software, which helps calculate the number of watts that you're outputting. And another sensor that's very useful to have is a heart rate monitor as well. Now, many of you runners anyway possibly have one. And again, you can link that in just as to your Garmin Edge or your Garmin Fenix. You can link it into Zwift as well. So those are the base ones that get recommended. Now, these are my recommendations based on my experience. You need a fan. If my video's still running, the fan I use for Zwift is now behind me, because it also serves to keep my office cool on hot days like this. So one thing I noticed from Zwift is you tend to sweat a lot, or again, it might just be me, but a fan does help to cool me down. And also a towel. Not so much for sort of dabbing the sweat away, but I tend to drape it over the top tube of my bike, because sweat does turn out to be a rather corrosive agent, and I've started noticing little blistering patches appear on my frame. So having a towel over sort of helps address that. Similarly, a floor mat. Carpets tend to be quite vulnerable to a drop of corrosive sweat as well, or your nice veneer flooring. So again, a floor mat's there. Or if you live in a flat or use Zwift indoors, I'm sentenced to the garage, so I don't necessarily have this problem, but it does dampen a lot of the noise down. Zwift setups do tend to be noisy. which is why I also recommend a set of noise cancelling headphones. And I've got a nice set. They link up with my Bluetooth to my smartphone, and I tend to run podcasts through them, either that Peter Craig's podcast or the another one. I sort of gets me through a long session. And then if I'm really going for it, then I'll stick on some AC/DC or Oasis, something like that. Other thing that is perhaps not so obvious, it's a useful one, is a rear view mirror. It's really disconcerting to be, putting in heck of an effort on the turbo trainer, and then have the wife or the kids up behind you, tap you on the shoulder, and instinctively you want to lash out, crikey, what's going on here? So a rear view mirror does help give you a little bit of warning that something may be coming up unexpected. And then, of course, your smartphone. To get the, let's say, the more complete Zwift experience, they have a little product called the Zwift Companion, which is a free download off of the Play Store or off of the Apple Store, and that links into the Zwift session at the same time as you're on it as well. I don't know if they need to be on the same network, but that's how I run it, and it works. Sometimes it can cause the occasional drop out, but it's useful for things such as making en route decision changes. So suddenly you're cycling along, you're coming up to a T junction. Zwift has already decided that you're going to go right, but you think, you know what, the heck of it, I'm going to go left today. And you can use the companion app to turn left. Or you might see one of your friends out on a ride. I keep meeting, I don't know if any of you know Michael Brooks with Cycles for Trowbridge. I keep seeing him every now and again. So you can give the thumbs up. You can even message people as well, but I tend not to go quite that bad. I'm not the most sociable people. But you can give thumbs up. You can also turn around and got an on toast icon that you can do and declare to the world that you're absolutely cream cracker and you're to give up. So a few things there we can consider. So how to set up Zwift? Well, no brainer here. The first thing you need is the Zwift app, which you can download to your Windows laptop or desktop, or even to your Apple TV. And then you need an account as well. Now, I'm assuming that those of you who already use Zwift already have the Zwift account. I'm currently paying $12.99 per month. I would be very interested to know if anybody's actually getting it cheaper than me and whether I'm getting a raw deal.
No, same price.
Okay, then you need to create an avatar, and this is where Zwift makes bases a lot of its assumptions on. So it looks at your age, your weight, your gender. Your hair color doesn't quite match into it, but you can put that onto your avatar as well. The reason I've emboldened weight, though, this goes into the cheating areas. And what gets people really upset is when you see somebody whipping along in Zwift at 50 miles an hour. And it's normally because they've said their weight is 10 stone. No, I've not been 10 stone for 20 years. I sometimes sort of think, you know what, I might just do it to see how good I would be if I could lay off the digestive biscuits for a little bit longer. So that does get people quite upset in some of the forums. But again, you're just cheating yourself. And then select your bike. There is quite a nice selection of bikes in the Zwift garage. All the main brands are there: Specialized, Giant, Trek, Pinarella. Though some of them you've got to reach certain levels or collect drops to be able to choose it. I'm still saving up for my Pinarella Dogma F12. I've got about 5 million drops still to go and about 30 levels still to complete. Or the other one with the current bike I'm using is what's technically called the Zwift Concept bike, but most people refer to it as the Tron bike because it resembles the bikes that were used in the 1980s film Tron. And you can also choose your kit. So you can put on whatever outfit sort of suits your fancy. This is my particular icon at the moment. I've gone the reverse. I created my my avatar, and then I sort of did my my own kit to match it. So so all I've got to do now is try and find a Tron bike somewhere. Okay, moving on. So when you start up Zwift, you've got all your devices clicking around. This is a screenshot I've taken from mine, and what we can see, hopefully my mouse pointer is showing up. And what we can see here is it's trying to communicate out on an ant detector. If that one there was alive, it would be trying to communicate on Bluetooth. It's telling me I've got a super magneto trainer, and it's picking up on the speed sensor. If I had a all-in-one, it would be over here and picking up the power source, unless of course I connected a power meter. And I'm going to say Garmin do them as well as replacement pedals. Also here it's detecting the cadence sensor. So I've got a Garmin one, a 46726 apparently. I didn't have my heart rate monitor on the day I took this particular screenshot. And also the controllable one there. I believe in the all-in-ones, there's different control units which determine how much resistance it applies according to gradient. Moving on, when you've gone in there, you can then choose your world. Up until quite recently being the start of lockdown, you had a choice. You could either go to Watopia or one of the 5 guest worlds. The guest worlds being Innsbruck, London, Richmond, New York, or Harrogate. Harrogate, Innsbruck being, and Richmond for that matter, being located for the UCI World Championships. There's also another route which I've not had the privilege of doing yet, which they roll out for competitions only, and that's Bologna, and also another one called Crit City. I've also heard rumours that they're going to start bringing out some worlds based on sections of France. So there's been quite interesting conversations going on about introducing Mont Ventoux. So what you've got here now, what happened at the start of lockdown, is because lots of people suddenly found they had more time for going into Zwift, the numbers of people in there was increasing. So this particular screenshot here, there were 10,000 people Zwifted in London, 13,000 Zwifted in Watopia, and 2 in Yorkshire. I'm not quite sure why that might be, but what was happening at the time lockdown, it was not uncommon to see up to 30,000 people in the world, and the Zwift servers were just not keeping up with it. So they introduced this concept of bringing in a second guest world, which spread the load a little bit, but obviously not as readily as they would like on this particular screenshot. But it is it's been working pretty well since. You can buck the system a little bit as well, because the guest worlds are pre-advertised on the Zwift companion website, and there is a prefs XML file in your Zwift user directory if you dig around on your Windows Explorer to find it. And what you can add in there is a world tag, and then you can put a number 5 being Innsbruck. Basically it's number 1's Watopia, and there's 2, 3, 4, 5. Interestingly, no number 6, and then there's number 7, which is Harrogate. But it's not quite as needed as it was when I put these slides together at the start of lockdown. Okay, when you're in there, you can pick your course. This particular one here, I've chosen London, and there's a selection of courses available to me, all of the greater various distances from 7 miles up to, on this one, I think 107 is the longest route you can do in London, which is effectively 11 laps of the London Loop and a little bit more, which a number of people are doing for their to replace Prudential Ride London being cancelled this year. I've actually entered a 100-mile time trial now on the same day that hasn't been cancelled. It minty. Double check today, it's still on. What you would see, or if you're actually in Zwift, is you see this little green starter icon. That would be moving around and reflecting the direction of travel. The London one's quite interesting as well, because you get this really strange scenario. When you cross Lambeth Bridge, you suddenly go down a tube station. And next thing you pop out in Surrey Hills, which is, I'm sure our American friends find it most quaint, but having sort of cycled in London, I actually find it quite irritating, because I want to do it. I want to go down Lambeth Tube Station and pop out at the foot of Box Hill.
Great.
Okay, is there anything else on that one? Let's move on. So what you can do is, I tend to go with just ride, which is, so I've picked my course and I'm just going to go and ride it and set the session up just as I want to do. I'm going to cycle hard when I want to, I'm going to ease off when I want to, or I could go for a training session. And there are somewhere in the region of about 1,800 predefined training sessions in Zwift. Everything from FTP tests to build up for time trials, or even sort of training up for your first century on the bike. It'll also link in with things such as Training Peaks. The Prudential Ride London's got its own program as well. So it will actually link in with these paid for programs in with the Zwift training programs as well, if that's your particular thing. I did try it once. Yeah, it's fine, but it's just not for me. So where is Wrintmore, which is my preferred world in Zwift? Well, it's there where that little icon is, because you can now link Zwift into Strava, and Strava has to give sort of coordinates where it is, and these are some islands, part of the Solomon Islands. And I actually googled the particular island, Tianyu Island. Oh, it's a beautiful little island paradise. It looks really nice down there. What I do wonder, though, is whether the cyclists on that island get really cheesed off that, or their king of the mountains get consumed by people in the northern hemisphere. So that's where Zwift is, but what does it actually look like? And there we go. There's your map of the Wrintmore world. Some you might know. So up here you've got downtown Wrintmore, where a lot of the events and courses start from. You've then got here the Fuego Flats, which is, as it says, it's very flat. It's a desert environment. It's a 0% gradient. You've got the Titans Grove, which is a undulating roll through some sequoia forests. Various islands there are linked together with underwater tunnels. We've then got some mountain sections here with Art of Zwift. So very nice climb. In fact, actually the Art of Zwift one is our virtual segment of the month, which some of you may wish to try. It's about 5 miles, and yeah, gets your heart rate up a bit. You've got the Mayan jungle, which they've now introduced something to do with the texture of the surface that you're cycling over. So most of the areas in Zwift, you're cycling over tarmac. For some reason, in the Mayan jungle, they've gravelled it, and you could be going flat out until you hit that gravel section, and suddenly Zwift decide that you're not going 20 miles an hour anymore, you're going 12. And I actually find it quite irritating. So hence, I've stopped going in the Mayan jungle. Though you do need to cycle through the Mayan jungle to conquer the piece de resistance of Wrintmore, which is Art of Zwift, which is modelled very much on Art of Zwift in France, which has featured in Tour de France quite a few times. And it's got its 21 hairpin bends, and you get a feather in the cap if you do it in under an hour, which is tricky. I've managed it on I was going to say a couple of occasions. I've actually managed it five occasions. I thought I was going to have a heart attack the first time I did it. Other areas we've got over here, we've got a volcano, where it's quite an interesting experience. I've got some screenshots of that one coming up. Cycling around the volcano, climbing up the outside, and then actually cycling through the volcano. Anything anyone wants to know about that? Oh, I'll tell you what we can pick out are the various segments. So there are, like in the world of Strava, you've got segments. In Watopia, there are segments too. And these are typically marked by a green flashing light going across the road, which marks the start of the segment, and a red flashing light to mark the end of a segment, and you will go hell for leather on those. It must be something psychological, because I will start a session and say, I'm not going to do those today. And yet, as soon as I see that green flashing light, the cadence increases. And then when I hit the red line, I suddenly wish I hadn't done it until the next green line appears. And so that's quite interesting. And they do actually then map into Strava as well. Okay, I'm going to move on, and this is where the Art of Zwift goes on. So I've got some art rendering. This is really to sort of show anyone that's not quite familiar with Zwift what's there. But as you all seem to be on various levels, I'm going to probably skip through these. That's downtown if you hadn't guessed. For those of you that want to try running in Zwift, I haven't. Just off to this side here, they've now introduced a running track. So you can actually go into Zwift. If you connect up your treadmill with a run pod, you can now go around a 400-meter running track.
Oh.
Quite why you'd want to do that over a normal running track, I don't know. But bearing in mind Zwift is available worldwide, running tracks are perhaps not that accessible worldwide. This is the Fuego Flats, which I mentioned. It is flat. It is not unknown to sort of cruise through here on between 25 and 30 miles an hour quite comfortably, and going even faster when you come across that little green line. And the red line is actually underneath an archway, very similar to what's there at the moment. There's some interesting features as well. There's actually a road runner comes along here. It gives you something to pace against. And road runner, if you don't know, can actually run to 40 miles an hour. So they really do make you go. And there are some very nice little features in here. There's a crashed UFO in the desert, which you can spot as like a nod to the Roswell incident. There's a little flashing light appears on top of one of the mountain buttes, which is like a nod to the various sort of westerns from the 1950s and 60s. There's a futuristic looking town based on 1950s America. Yeah, all very a lot of thought has gone into the detail. Then you've got the mountain areas. There's even snow warnings. And one of the things I couldn't quite get my head around when I first started in Zwift is it can actually rain in Zwift, which one of the reasons I started Zwift was because it was in the middle of winter last year and the weather outside was horrible. And when I was cycling through Zwift, struggling to go up the hill, and it started raining. And I just thought, why am I doing this? But you can also have snowstorms as well. There's also a mountain goat you can look out for. And the one that I've not seen yet, which I'm so keen to, apart from the fact it's on Art of Zwift, is there's an abominable snowman that appears. And apparently you've got a 1 in 5 chance of seeing it. Now, I've gone up Art of Zwift 5 times and I've not seen it. So I think I'm just being unlucky. But occasionally on the forums, you'll get a screenshot. Somebody says, seen it, look, here's the screenshot. And I sometimes think, why am I putting this much effort in just to see a graphic of the Yeti? Okay, other things. Oh, here we go. Here's the volcano. So you cycle through, you got your lava flows. There is actually a Zwift challenge you can do. There's a lap counter in there, and there's something called the volcano circuit. And you can just keep cycling round and round a 2.5 mile loop, clocking up laps. And it's fairly flat. I think it varies about 1% gradient. So again, it is relatively flat, not as flat as the Fuego flats, but flat enough to give you a good session. And then Titan's Grove, which is one of my favourites at the moment. Nice tarmac, but you know what's really cool about it? Amongst all the trees, there's dinosaurs. There is a T-Rex. There's a couple of Brontosauruses. There's hadrosaurs, little ornithomycosis. I've even seen a pterodactyl flying over. It's brilliant.
You said that.
Oh, it is really good, and it's a nice workout as well because it's not flat. It's undulating, and there's a King of the Mountain section in there as well. Ooh. Oh dear! Hey, okay, it's telling me I've got 40 minutes. It's lied to me. Okay, I think I might.
Darren, it just says it's upgraded. You've got multiple minutes.
Oh right, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, just moving on then. So, what can we do in Zwift? Well, there's various challenges and power-ups to help you complete all these routes. So that particular screenshot there is one of the challenges that I did, which was to make 64,000 feet, which is what unlocked the Tron bike for me, or the Zwift concept bike, to give it its proper title. And there are power-ups that you can use as well, which brings in the sort of gameplay elements. So you can bring in there's an aero boost, which will make you more aerodynamic for 30 seconds. Or there's a drafting boost, which makes you the effect of drafting behind somebody for 30 seconds or so. Though actually on typical sessions, you can actually draft behind people and get a benefit anyway. But if you've got the drafting power up, you don't necessarily need to be drafting anyone to benefit from it. And what's the other one I've got? Oh yeah, there's a useful one for me. There's a featherweight badge, a power up that you can use as well, which reduces your weight by not as much as I would like it to, but it reduced it enough to make the hills go a little bit easier. I must say the Avon Valley segment of the month this month is at the side of Westbury White Horse, and every time I get to the Duke in Eddington, I start looking around on the ground and think, can I see this featherweight icon that I can go over to help me get up the hill? Not happened yet, but that's something useful. I was actually invited to trial some new power-ups that Zwift are introducing, such as, I'm not quite sure why they want to do this one, allow you to ditch any power-ups that you might have, or store your power. So if you cap your wattage at let's say 300 watts, but you're actually generating 400 watts, it will store it and you can call upon it later. I think this is more benefit for for racing and leveling the playing field somewhat, but I declined the trial. So that'd be useful. That's something that will be appearing soon. So I'm just going to take no, badges. So what's a computer game unless you can earn some awards? So you can earn various badges while you're doing Zwift. Some are quite straightforward, such as you can have a fan club. So if you mentioned that if you've got the companion app, you can give people a ride on, which is very similar to a like on Facebook. And yeah, if you give so many of those, you can form a fan club. If lots of people give you ride-ons, then you're popular. If you link up Zwift, that Strava, they can call you a statistician because you can then analyze your performance. Again, through the companion app, you can actually do a U-turn. So they've called that, you can get win badge. So these are quite good ones to get when you're first starting off with Zwift. The reason I've circled the unemployed ones, because I posted this on my Facebook profile because I thought it was quite funny when I achieved it, which is basically saying, we've noticed that you've been on Zwift for 14 days running, therefore how can you have a job? But they've actually renamed it now. I think they've called it you must be isolated, or words to that effect is what they've called it now. Then there's some more interesting badges and awards that you can get. So if you complete 42k, then you're a marathoner. If you've done 100k in one session, then you get your 100 clicks. When I did the screenshot, no big deal, with 100 miles. Unfortunately, the weather was not as good as I wanted it to be for my day off on Friday, so I actually did 100 miles. Took me 5.5 hours of my life, but I could hear the wind rattling against the garage door. There's other things such as Daredevil, which you get if I think you've got to break 50 miles an hour going downhill. If you clock out so many watts, I can't remember the exact number of watts that you need to get, Sprinter's Apprentice, Lit Circuit Breaker. There's another one where you can light up toast. It's something like you've got to output 1,000 watts for 5 seconds. There's other icons down here as well, such as, this one here is you've done 25 laps of the volcano. Or this one here, you've climbed up to Zwift 5 times. There's another one here for climbing up to Zwift 25 times. I don't think I'll be getting that one anytime soon. There's also badges to mark what routes you've done. So there are, I think it's about 70 routes in Zwift. I've done 69 of them. I'm saving the PRL 100 for a rainy day, because that's one I've mentioned is 107 miles long. And yeah, it's something to just keep you entertained. One that's not on there, and I should have mentioned it when I was showing you the map of Watopia, is they've introduced now another route called Ridge. Oh, what's it called? Gravel Pack Ridge, which is a gravel circuit, but you can only access it through the Zwift Companion app, and you have to be cycling through through Titans Grove, and you'll see a little unmarked turning on your right as you're going through from as if you're coming in from downtown. And if you hit turn right on your Companion app, you will suddenly find yourself off-road. Now, one of the things that they don't tell you about going off-road is you need a front, I'm not quite sure what the correct terminology is, it's like a controller pad under the front wheel of your bike. Otherwise, you're going to do serious damage to your front tyre, because to ride the gravel segment, you need to be able to steer. And it's a feature that kicks in on the Companion app once it detects you're on this gravel track. I've not tried it yet, but a lot of the feedback seems to be that it's quite good and quite a good experience, as long as you've got this plate under your front wheel. There's some extra credits that you can get, such as exceeding 62 miles an hour, which you can do on some of the big downhill sections. You can scrape it, or do a blow dryer if you create an excessive number of watts. I must have got this one at some stage, some 1.21 gigawatts, which is generating 1,200 watts over a given amount of time. That must have been for less than a second, because I can't see how I managed that. And then there's lift off, which you get if you've completed Help to Zwift in under an hour. So segments, I've mentioned these a few times now, that the segments in Zwift do link to segments in Strava. This month it is the segment which goes up the Col du Zwift, which I showed you on the map earlier. And then one last thing to show you is Zwift Power. And this is for people that go racing in Zwift. So you can sign up for various events or races. And there is actually an Avon Valley Triathletes group on Zwift Power, which I found by accident. There's only 2 members in it, it's myself and Ian Isaac. So I'm assuming it's Ian that set this up. And what this does, it shows you various statistics about how people race on Zwift relating to your particular club. So it's telling me, here I've outputted 7.3 watts per kilogram over 15 seconds, whereas Ian's done 3.7, but that's probably because I probably weigh a lot more than Ian. And that really is it, apart from perhaps we could watch a little bit of Zwifting and give you a chance to answer some questions of things that are going on. So if I can find where my screen has gone. Right, I think I've got to stop the sharing, and then I've got to reshare on here. Right, has that come up on your screen? So yeah, I can see on my secondary one it has. So I'm going to go to just watch. And what we'll just do is just have an open session there. Any questions that you might have, and I'll endeavour to answer them for you. Or have I accidentally put you all on mute?
No, I think we muted ourselves. I'm going to ask a daft question.
No such thing as a daft question?
I really literally get on and click things and just go. So I've never actually swapped over my kit, and I don't know how to. And I also don't know where you find those achievements.
Right, okay. Well, when Zwift loads, I will show you where those achievements are. So you can only get to them through the game.
Yeah.
And, here we go. Right, hopefully. If I go back to me, so we're watching, there's Iaracus. I'm going to go back to me. So where are the achievements? The achievements are on the menu.
Okay.
And can you see this map here of, that's Italy, because I'm doing, because I've done my...
I see.
If I then click on that, there you go, it's telling me the tour of Italy, I'm now 70% complete.
Yeah. Okay.
But what I can also show you, if I go back, is I am trying to find the option which says this is what you've won.
Yeah, I think whenever I've ended a ride, I'm done for the day. I don't even think about it there, so that's really good to know. So start something to watch, end it, and then it's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Great.
Right. I'm trying to find, there's an option which shows you what you have won. Come on, Wrintmore, where is it?
It's not in your settings then, or on your profile.
No, it's an option on here. This is, there's an option. I bet the buttons are on top of all your images are on top of it, which is why I can't see it.
I'm looking. You're using enhanced.
No. Right, I will add that rather than clicking around wildly. I will.
Thank you, though.
I will set that. I will find out where that is. That's
Superstar. Cheers.
Where's on the badges there?
Yeah, I saw them.
Sorry, where did you see it? Because that's what I was looking for. Where?
Badges.
Back to your
Badges underneath workouts.
where your garage and pair, then above is.
That's what I'm looking for. Where did you?
You probably got us in front of it.
Right.
Right hand side. Right.
Yes, I have.
Right.
Yes, I've got all your. Hang on. Let's move. I knew that's what linking up. I've got you all on the top of it.
Yeah, make us smaller.
Yeah, I don't. Right. Let's. There we go. Frank, that's why I couldn't see it. Right, thank you. That was embarrassing. Right. So badges. There we go. So there we go. They called it working from home, not you're in lockdown. So there's 121 achievements. I've completed 91 of them. There you go. Masochist is the one for climbing up to 25 times. Then you got your route achievements here. So these are all the various Zwift routes that they've got that that I've done. The Uber Pretzel is what I did on Friday to, that's a 79-mile route. But by the time I got to the top of Alp to Zwift, I thought, do you know what, I'm going to have a nice leisurely coast down the hill. And by the time it got to the bottom, I was on just shy of 90 miles. I thought, do you know what, the hell of it, let's do another 10 and get me century. So that's the only one I'm outstanding now, is the PRL4, which is 107 miles. Well, there we go. That's what they've called it. There you go. No big deal badge. So you've got 100 close. Now, what I can also show you here as well is the garage, and this is where you select your bike.
Brilliant, thank you.
So you go here. There's my bike. I could even change its colour scheme if I really wish, but I won't because I'm like keeping set colours. So there we go. You got it won't match my kit anymore otherwise. There we go. I could even have a Zwift mountain bike if I really wanted to start doing that off-road, that repack ridge or whatever it's called. There's a Zwift TT bike. So those are all the Zwift flavors. There we go. Here's the Trek, the Specialized.
Do the bikes actually perform differently?
Allegedly. I haven't actually noticed anything.
Okay.
I haven't actually noticed it. I just go on the basis of, I think that looks nice.
Yeah.
I must say, I think the Zwift Aero I had for a while until I did the Art of Zwift, and then it's almost like it's a badge of honour. You see people cycling around on the Zwift bike. You think, they got too much time on their hands. They've gone up Art of Zwift a few times. Let's follow somebody else. Let's find somebody who's whipping around. Right, there we go.
You probably know all these people, don't you, Darren?
No, I don't know anyone. So there we go. We're now following S. Derby. Now, other things we can do. Stage. I wonder if I go to my other one. I wonder if I can influence this through. I'm going to just go off plot a minute and try running my Zwift companion at the same time. So, are you guys still there?
Yeah.
All right, that's good. Okay, I'm just trying the Zwift companion at the moment.
Now, the thumbs up you've got next to S. Derby now, is that because you're watching?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
And I've just given it's actually prompted me to say, do you want to give them a thumbs up?
Yeah.
If I now go to A King, if I go to A King, there we go. I'm now see that little aero helmet? So he's in aero mode at the moment for 30 seconds or so. And now I've just given A King a thumbs up. Now what I'm just looking for is I'm just wondering, here we go, right. Now on the Zwift companion, I don't know if on the video feed you can see me holding my mobile phone. There's an eye icon, and that allows me to change the view of how I'm watching people.
Oh.
You see here, it comes up with we're coming up to downtown. There's a junction coming up. This is where I said you can choose to go left or right.
Yeah.
And what else can I do there?
So how do you do? You just click on that icon at the bottom to change your direction.
I have an icon, and if I go back to me, it's not gonna. Unfortunately, it's not going to work because because I'm in watching mode, not cycling mode. What I would have on this sort of blue banner here, I have an icon which says go left or go right, but it only comes active when you see one of those boards. What I can do, I might be able to turn around. Let's see if I can turn around. No, it's not going to let me because I'm not moving.
Go check another question out, Darren.
Okay, yeah, by all means. Crikey! I've inadvertently clicked on a runner.
Oh, look at that! several people, they ride as a group. Now, when I'm riding, I'm either going ahead of people or I'm behind them. But
Yeah.
I very rarely feel much that I'm actually with them. How do people manage to stay together on Zwift?
Right. What you have, if you set up a group ride, there is an option called Elastic.
Right.
And what that basically does is gives you basically provides some elastic so that you can only be dropped so far. You can't be dropped miles.
Okay.
You can only be dropped so far unless you stop pedaling.
All right. So how does that work then? So
It's set up by the group rider.
Does that slow them down or speed you up?
It slows them down.
Oh, they must love you.
Oh, yeah. It was horrible. I did a few of them. There was a rather cheeky group leader who said, "Right, let's go for the King of the Mountains." And what he did, he dropped right to the back of the group, which slowed me down at the front. And then, because I then went past the green flashy bit across the road first, he went over it last. Then, of course, he's got a head start, and he's then dictating the pace, and he was able to just catch me up at his leisure, and he put the fastest time in because he basically stopped me from cycling too fast, which is part of the reason for it. The elastic is to keep people's groups and stop people racing within groups.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you.
That's okay. So on my Zwift companion app, if I was one of these two riders, I would now be seeing an option to go left or straight on. So I don't know what course they're going on at the moment. We'll find out in a minute. But also, you might notice this guy's got a special jersey on. He's obviously quite quick. So he's actually got the Volcano Circuit King of the Mountains jersey on. And the one thing about the King of the Mountains jerseys in Zwift is they get reset after an hour. What you can also see there as well from Chris Weston is he's obviously using the messaging function.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's a running track we've just gone by on the left.
Oh, yeah.
You can see it if you see it on the map up there as well.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I thought I'd be able to show you at this stage is you can tell people that are on proper schedules, that are on training schedules, because they look as though they're reading a library book whilst they're cycling.
I thought that was to do with the map or something. I didn't understand it. So.
I just didn't know. So this one here's got the drafting, or did have the drafting booster. Yeah. So I didn't know what it was. So I don't know if those of you that know Neil Perry. He's with Chippenham Triathletes. I asked. He's big into Zwift as well. So I asked him, and he told me it's all to do with people that are on set sessions. Now, what you can also see here, where you've got the Zwifters nearby, we've got various icons. So this is telling me, so bearing in mind I'm El Kucha from Canada, he's got B Ben 11 seconds ahead of him, or her, and K Bartosik 15 seconds ahead, and so you can see who you're catching. But what you can also see here, for this little sort of square icon here, that means they're running the companion app. What we can also see just down here off the screen, I'm going to switch over to this user here, because what I can see, because they've got this like a bar chart, they're actually on a session, and there we go. They've got the library book in front of them.
Yeah.
So I'm just giving them a ride on. So they're going off over, I'm not quite sure where they're heading at the moment. I think they're heading towards Titans Grove. There's lots of little Easter eggs in there. There we go. It's a Zwift blimp. See over here, we've got the sculptures. What we can also see as well is our Fordham. His heart rate is 165 beats per minute. I'm sure there might be a GDPR issue in here somewhere, but and they're going at 96. The cadence center is telling they're knocking around 95, 96 RPM, and probably his session will tell him at some stage that he needs to get a wiggle on for X number of sessions, and those figures will increase. I'm just hoping that they will go into pick on. I'm going to pick on Claudia. There we go. He's on a mountain bike. So I'm just using these riders to get further up the road. There goes a lot of people overtaking him. Mountain bikes aren't that quick as they are in real life as well. So I'm now going with Saint. There we go. We just gone past another runner. Okay, any more questions?
How do you increase your wattage?
Cycling faster.
Cycling
Being quite flippant, there are two ways you can do it. It's either by pushing your pedals around faster or lying about your weight.
Okay.
And that's what gets people upset. Because what your watts are is basically saying you're generating this much power to propel this much weight over a distance. And therefore, to increase your wattage, you need to reduce, either increase your power or decrease the amount of weight that you're trying to propel.
So if my crappy bike, my old bike, the age of the bike won't make a difference then.
No, it's what you're doing in the. It's how fast you're turning the pedals round.
Right. Okay.
What I'm hoping in a minute is we'll see these guys. Sort of head on to one of the sprint segments, because there's one coming up in a moment. I'm just gonna, if I jump on the J Annie, he's getting a little bit closer. Good one. Pedro. Oh, Greggy. I like somebody called Greggy. Right, here we go. Watch this. See that green flashing light? It's the start of a segment. So at the moment he's doing 26 miles an hour. If he's like the rest of us, he's going to go hell for leather, but he's a lot more disciplined than me. So he's putting out the watts. His standard, his heart rate's not particularly high. I don't think he's going for it somehow.
Bizarre to think that people could be watching you. I've not even ever thought about that.
Yeah, it's one of the badges. It's one of the badges you can get.
Voyeur.
Yeah, and I think that's actually what it's called.
Unbelievable.
Let's pull up the list a bit more. Okay, any further questions? So what it's also telling me at the moment is I'm looking at, actually if I pick on somebody with a more pronounceable name, so if I go for Steve Reed, what it's telling me at the moment, there's 1,180 people who have done that Fuego Flats segment that we saw. He has cycled it in 146 fastest time in 42 seconds.
Mm.
And it was over 0.31 miles. So third of a mile, what does that equate to? That's just shy of like 30 miles an hour.
Mm.
Let's give him a ride on. A little bit of encouragement. But yeah, when you're in, you've actually got no idea that if anybody's watching you or not.
Crazy.
Or if there is, I haven't found out how that works. Actually, he must have been trying, because his speed's dropped down to 21 miles an hour, and his RPMs, res per minute, has dropped down from 90 odd down to 66. So he was trying.
Hmm.
You might recognise this scene coming up from the presentation pack. So there we go, all the sort of comments coming in. Okay, we any more questions? We wrap up now.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Darren. Yeah,
Thank you, Darren.
only had 2 minutes left anyway. So, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. I think I've learned quite a lot today.